In this video, I want to share with you how you can replace your income with just 3 rental properties. Even if you're completely new to property investing. Now I know that sounds crazy, but I'll explain exactly how you can do it in this video, so listen very carefully. So my name is Simon Zutshi. I'm the founder of the Property Investors Network, which is the largest network for property investors in the UK, set up in 2003. I'm the author of Property Magic, the Amazon #1 property bestseller, sold over 100,000 copies. And I've been investing in property for 25 years. Now, since 2003, I've been teaching people just like you how to replace your income much quicker than I did it. And what I'm going to share with you today in this video is the fastest way to replace your income. What that means for you is you no longer have to trade your time for money. You can choose how you spend your time. And that's what I believe is the purpose of property investing. So, how do I know all this? Well, I bought my first property back in 1995. And to be honest, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just buying a house for me to live in. I'd started work at Cadbury's in Birmingham as a graduate trainee, and I was living in Selly just next to Birmingham University. And I bought a house that was big enough for me and 2 friends to live in. Now, by the way, I had no money to invest. I had a debt, a student loan, or an overdraft, and I had to borrow the small deposit to buy the first house. And I'm going to talk about that later on, because you might be sitting there thinking, well, I don't have enough money to buy a property, let alone 3 of them. Don't worry. When you find great deals, there are ways of funding them using other people's money, but that's later in the video. So I bought this first house, I moved in, and my 2 friends who were living with me, the rent that they paid me pretty much covered the mortgage and the bills, and I was living for free. So I started to save some of my salary from Cadbury's. I also had a part-time business I was running in the evenings and weekends, and that money was building up in my business bank account. And I decided I wanted to move into a new house closer to Cadbury's, a bigger house than the one I was living in, a little bit further away from all the students. Because I had enough deposit to buy my second house, I didn't need to sell my first one. So I held on to my first property, and then I bought my second one, and I turned my first property into an HMO that I was renting to students. So an HMO is a house of multiple occupation, where you rent out the individual rooms instead of renting the whole house. Now, I really didn't know what I was doing. It kind of just made sense because there were lots of students in the area, they needed accommodation, and it worked really well for me. I was managing the property myself. It really didn't take a lot of time and effort, and so I was pretty happy with that. Now, I noticed, and I had this real revelation in 1998 when I had this first proper rental HMO property, that owning property is a bit like owning your very own cash machine. So you got to do some work in the first place to buy that property, obviously, and I did it with none of my own money. But you know, once you've got that property in the right area, if you buy at the right price, every month you get money into your bank account. And unlike Cadbury's, where I had to turn up to work to get paid, the money would just come every single month. And some months I didn't have to do anything for my property at all. I thought, this is amazing. I'm going to start getting some more properties. And I started buying some more houses that I was renting out. Now, it was only in 2005 when I looked back, and by that time I'd been able to leave my job. I left in 2001. I hadn't quite replaced my income by then, but I had enough to live on. By 2003 I'd completely replaced my income, and by 2005 I was already teaching other people how to do what I did. And I looked back over my 10 years of investing, and I realized that actually my first property that I was renting to students as an HMO was actually my most profitable property, and also the one that there was the least work, because it was a great house, good condition, very low maintenance, and actually the tenants were pretty good. Their parents paid the rent. I hardly ever heard from them. It was much easier than I thought. Now, I know that when people think about investing in property, there's a lot to think about. What happens if this goes wrong? What happens if that goes wrong? And I completely understand that. But very often you'll find that actually when you actually take action and get a property, all those things you were worried about were just fears in your head. Now, some of them are genuine concerns, but most things that people worry about never actually happen and never go wrong. Now, I learned the hard way through trial and terror, making mistakes myself. But the good news is you don't have to do that. There's so much information available for you online for free that actually you can learn how to do this and avoid the expensive mistakes that I made and that most people make. Now, if you really want to speed up your learning, people like myself, we have training to help you. We give you all the information in one concise go, which is better than spending hours and hours trying to work it out for yourself. But hey, if you want to work it out for yourself, I've got loads of videos you can watch that will help you do that. But back to the story, because I want you to understand this. You see, if you get this little cash machine that generates money for you every month, if you get enough of those properties, then you can replace your income. Now, at the beginning of the video, I said it's possible in just 3 properties. How on earth can you do that? Well, in the UK, the average person earns less than £30,000 a year. You might earn more, but that's the average person. And for the average person, 3 properties could be more than enough to completely replace their income. So how does that work? Now, if you buy a property, it might be a house or an apartment, and you rent it out to someone, normally you rent it out on a single AST contract, an assured short-term tenancy. It's a 6 to 12 month contract. The tenants, they pay the bills, they cover the council tax, you pay the mortgage, the insurance, and you might have someone managing it for you. I started managing properties myself because it doesn't take a lot of time when you know what you're doing. However, I realized as I got more and more properties, I was spending more time managing and less time buying. And you make the money when you buy the property instead of managing the property. So I took the step to get someone else to manage my properties for me. And although I took a slight dip in income at that point, because some of the rent and profit I was giving to someone to manage for me, I suddenly had all the time available to do exactly what I wanted. And that's the really powerful. That's true financial freedom if you don't have to work anymore and you spend your time doing what you want to do. The problem is if you rent out houses or apartments on a single contract, you might make £100, maybe £200, or a really good buy-to-let property, you might make £300 profit, but that's unusual. Most properties are £100 or £200 profit. Therefore, you're going to need 15 to 20 properties to pretty much replace your income for the average person. Now, that's a lot of properties to buy, that's a lot to think about, that's a lot to fund, and you might think that's never going to be possible. But if instead of doing single let properties, you do these HMOs, these houses of multiple occupation, then instead of making £100 or £200 profit a month, you should be making at least £1,000 profit per property per month. So therefore, if you had 3 properties, 3 HMOs, that would be £3,000 profit per month, which would replace most people's income. So actually, getting 3 properties is far more achievable and far more believable than maybe thinking you have to get 15 properties. Many of my students have replaced their income in as little as a year using this strategy. So this can be a life changer for you. Imagine what would it be like for you if a year from now, actually you didn't have to work? How would you feel? How would your family feel? What would life be like for you if you could choose how you spend your time? Now, you might love what you do and you just want to get property as a safety net in case for some reason you can't work. Maybe you hate what you do and you're desperate to do something else. Maybe you've always wanted to set up a business, but you've never been able to do that because you've got to cover the basic bills. Or maybe you want to set up a charity or work in the community and you want to give your time to help society, but you can't do that because you've got to look after your bills. Well, there's a great saying by one of my mentors, a guy called Bob Proctor. He said, if you want to help the poor, make sure you're not one of them. So if you put income in place to make sure all of your bases are covered, you've then got resources, time, money, you can help other people. So let's get back to these HMO properties and understand exactly how it works. So who is going to live in a shared house? There are 4 types of tenant. First of all, you have students. And when many people think about HMOs, they think, oh, you mean student property. Students make up a large majority of HMOs because when someone goes to university, typically in the first year, they might stay in university accommodation, halls of residence or accommodation flats, university flats. But often, after a while, in their second or third year, they don't want to live in the university-controlled accommodation. They want to have a bit more freedom, a bit more independence, and they want to live with their friends in a house where they can have parties. And believe me, they're going to have parties in your house. Don't worry about it. It happens, okay? But here's the point. So students, when you find the right location, and location is very important in property, particularly for student property. It's got to be very, very close to university. So you can find it the areas in which they like to live. And you can find a property that you can purchase, and the rental profit on that for a 5 or 6 bed HMO should be at least £1,000 a month. Once you've got those tenants in place, they're there for at least a year, sometimes 2 years. So you have very low void periods. Another benefit of students is they pay no council tax. Normally in an HMO, you pay all the bills, including council tax, but they don't pay it, they're exempt from it. And in some student areas, and my student properties, the students actually pay the bills themselves. They come as a group of friends and they pay the bills. So a student HMO can be very, very profitable. Then you have young professionals. Now these are people who've been to university, so they're used to living in a shared house. They've got a career and a profession. They might be a doctor, they might be an engineer, they might be an accountant, a solicitor, and they often move to a new city to start work, and they don't know anyone. So moving into a shared house is more cost effective than living on their own, and also it means that they've got an instant social life. So this is very popular. The next type of tenant is just someone who's working. They've not necessarily been to university, nothing wrong with that of course, but maybe it means they haven't lived in a shared house before. They've come from living at home with mum or dad. And so mum and dad don't want them there anymore. They don't want to live with mum and dad anymore. They can't afford an apartment, so they move into a shared house. Working people and young professionals, they work really well as tenants together, but I wouldn't want to put students in with working people. And then the fourth group of tenants is actually people who are on benefits, people who aren't working, for some reason they can't work. And actually, I don't have any house of that type of tenant. It is a lot more work than a normal HMO, but a lot of my students, what they do is they take on houses, they rent them to charities who specialise in providing accommodation to people who are vulnerable, who they can get a higher rate from the local council, and the investor, the landlord, they get the full market rent with no hassle at all. The charity take care of looking after the people and they make money because they get a higher rate. So actually it's a real win-win for everyone involved. So those are the 4 types of tenant. Now you need to make sure you get the right kind of property. There are requirements for HMOs over a certain size to be licensed. Now the national guideline is 5 or more people, but actually some councils interpret it as 3 or more people. So you need to check with your local council, with the HMO licensing department, and they often have a pack online that you can download to see how many people are in the property before they need a license. So typically it's 5 or more people. Now, what does that actually mean? Well, you fill in some forms, which once you've done them once are pretty straightforward about how the property is managed. You need to make sure the property adheres to all the safety requirements. So you need to have fire doors on all the bedrooms. You need to have an interlinked smoke alarm so that if there's a fire in one room, the alarm goes off everywhere. You need to have emergency lighting. There are some safety requirements. But again, once you know how to do this, it's actually straightforward. A lot of people worry, well, what if I don't get a license? Look, if the property adheres to all the requirements, and you get your builder to help you with that. And as long as you are a fit and proper person, i.e. you don't have a criminal record for things like drugs or for any convictions of being a bad landlord, you will be able to get a license on the property. And actually, the fact that there's a bit of a barrier there is good, because most investors, even people who are experienced investors, they might have a portfolio of property, they've only got single lets, because they don't really understand HMOs, they think, oh, I'm not going to do HMOs because I don't understand it. Well, that's crazy. It's a bit like saying, well, I don't know how to drive a car, so I'm not going to bother to learn. I'm just going to not drive for the rest of my life. You know, if you are investing in properties and you don't have HMOs as part of your balanced portfolio, then I think you are really missing out. Because if you're new to property, or if you're already investing in property and you've not got to a point where you've replaced your income yet, getting just a couple of HMOs giving you £1,000 profit per month could massively move you to the point where you no longer have to work. This is why it's such an important strategy that you need to educate yourself and you need to learn about. Look, if you liked this content, I've put together 2 more longer videos explaining exactly how you can start acquiring these HMO properties to give you £1,000 profit per month per property. If you'd like to get access to these videos, all you have to do is click on the link below, come and register your details, and as soon as they're ready, we'll send them to you. Now, video number 2 is all about how you can use other people's money to build your portfolio. Don't think you need to have a lot of your own cash. At some point, everyone runs out their own money, and that's exactly what we're going to share with you. Then video number 3 is how you can use other people's time and experience. Even if you don't know how to do this, we can show you how other people can do it for you and how you can get other people managing the property. The worst thing for you to do would be get a whole load of property you want to spend all your time managing because you've just swapped whatever you're doing as a job for a job managing property. And that's not such a good job in my opinion. So I'm going to show you in the 3rd video how you can do this using other people's time and experience. All you have to do is click on the link below in the description and come and register for these videos. I do hope you enjoyed this video. Please like the video if you like it. Come and subscribe to the channel. Also, just give me a comment. What do you think? Have you got any questions about HMOs? Put those in the comment box because I'm filming the next 2 videos and I'm going to try and answer your questions in the next 2 videos. So come straight away, put your comments in the comment box and I'll answer as many as I possibly can on the next 2 videos. And make sure you come and click on the link and register to get those 2 longer videos that's going to give you a lot more detail about how you can acquire these HMOs using other people's money and then also using other people's time. So come on, click the link right now. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. I do hope you've enjoyed watching this video. And look, if you want to learn more about houses of multiple occupation and how you can really profit using them, I've got some extra online training that I'd like to give you access to. So all you have to do is click in the link in the description below the video and you can come and register and get access to that training, which will give you far more detail and really help you save a lot of time and make some real shortcuts to make sure you're getting the next HMO property much quicker. So click on the link right now and come and register for that extra bonus training with me. In the meantime, I've also lined up another video here I think you'll find really useful. So until the next video, remember to invest with knowledge, invest with skill.